Hey, Coach Bill here. Glad you're back. Today we want to start to get into that physical ideas, those physical ideas of how I'm trying to move, okay? And one of those characteristics that we talk about, so I talk about 7 physical characteristics, okay? So today I just want to talk about that very first move and slack pull, the idea of removing slack in our myofascia and in our musculature, okay? More often than not, it's probably myofascia. We don't care to know that. You don't need to know that. But it's those ideas where we call elasticity, okay? And so in order to understand that, there's a couple of items that I think we need to understand. And some of those are in how we are creating force, right? So we're talking about ground reaction forces, how we interact with the ground and how that ground plays back to what we're doing. And there are 3 forces that we're working with, okay? One is a horizontal force, and in that horizontal force, probably what we would see a hitter push against their back leg and propel themselves forward, okay? Obviously, not an ideal situation as a first move, okay? And I do want to put this caveat out there. We're going to use all 3 forces, so it's not like one is better than the other, but it is appropriate when they are being used, right? So as an initial move, pushing out straight is not ideal. It causes some issues out here, leaking, lunging, however you want to call that. But for me, more so, even here on the back side, I get into this triple extension, ankle extension, knee extension, hip extension, and what happens, I cannot create separation, okay? So energy flows like water in a garden hose, and if we kink that garden hose, we stop the flow of water. Well, the same thing happens if we kink joints and such. We're going to start to interrupt the flow of energy. Now, as a whole, if I could hit 100 units of whatever in hitting, probably in order for me to set up correctly, and I'll go this way because I'm going to hit my hinge. In order for me to set up correctly into a hinge, I could probably only hit at 93 units anyhow, because even within a proper setup and into that hinge, I'm already starting to bend, right? My spine is already starting to bend. It's not upright, so there's no way I'm going to get it to rotate absolutely vertical, okay? But because of that, I'm going to start leaking some energies. If I go bent arm, right, I'm going to start leaking energy, right? Bent arm, I'm going to leak energy. If I'm not, as efficient in the rotation of that spine, leaking energy, okay? So then, hey, but Bill, you just said if you bend joints, you'll leak energy. However, if I push to that triple extension, let me sit back here. If I push into that triple extension, I can't create separation from the lower half and the upper half. So I can't tap in to that great elasticity. I can't tap into resistance because I'm trying to resist that rotation. And so I can't get to here and allow the unraveling of the coil, okay? So when I do that, when I hit into this hinge, when I get into this hinge, okay, that hinge is affecting the gluteus medius, which, we don't need to know that either. However, I want you to understand it. It's going to allow me to rotate. That muscle allows me to rotate, okay? When I do that, I can separate my lower torso from my upper torso. And when I do that, I can create ascending velocities, right? So lower half, right? The swing starts with the torso. Then I have, right, the lower half, upper half, shoulders, barrel. Okay, that's the sequence I'm trying to obtain. All right? If I don't do that, if the very first thing I were to do is to come up here and I push my weight back because somewhere along the line someone told me I needed to have their version of what a load is, and a load is not, for me, a load is not transferring weight forward or back. I'm not coming out with a scale, right? But at 51%, yeah, you've done it for me. I'm not 50-50. Really don't care. what I'm thinking of a load is I'm removing slack, okay? And so if I can take my back pocket out the back door, if I can take my back pocket out the back door, or corkscrew, okay? You see a lot of that. I would say Cody Bellinger. If we corkscrew it, right, and I think I go here, I take this back hip out that back door, I start to pull slack. All right, I start to pull across the muscle slings, okay? And that's what I'm trying to do. So the first action I want to have is indeed a corkscrew, right? Where I'm initiating the move from my back hip, okay? Where the bone goes into the pelvis and that back hip. I'm not falsely turning this in, right? Especially in my youth. Phrase was, when you see the pitcher's back pocket, you show him your back pocket, but I don't want to falsely load it, to falsely and just turn. I'm going to initiate it from the backside, so I start pulling slack, okay? And when I do, you'll feel this front shoulder pull down and in slightly, okay? It's not like a massive move, but you're going to feel that front shoulder turn down and in, okay? So I can see that here in the video. I can turn it down and in, and now I'm starting to create separation. I'm starting to get a pull, right? I'm starting to get a pull, okay? So here I am. It's a soft move. It doesn't have to be a strong move. It's a soft move, okay? It's the very first move, okay? We call it corkscrewing. It works hand in hand with what my intent is going to be. When I do this correctly, it allows me to work against the back foot. It creates torque into the ground, right? I'm creating torque. I've got a vertical force in the ground, but I can move forward as well, a horizontal force as well. So we have three things going on, but this first one is torque, and it lets me move forward, okay? That's the first piece. Tomorrow we'll talk about controlling the midline, getting to foot plant, having a strong front side, and what's going to happen after that. All right? Until then, get working on corkscrews. Pretty simple thing to do. If you have hip mobility issues, which most certainly can happen, make sure that we are working on hip mobility drills, right? Where we're just learning how to move hips, isolating shoulders, and just moving hips. There's a couple of other items we can do. You could just do what I just did there. Dancing would be a great one, right? Hey, I get it, but it could be a good one. And then also just coming down and where I am leaning back in and then just turning up that hip as I rise up, okay? So left and right, okay? So we want to keep working on those items, but that'll help with hip mobility. Hip mobility, you would probably have to do 2 to 3 times a day, okay? Mobility is lost easily, okay? So we want to keep bringing it to us, all right? So, all right, hey, until next time, Coach Bill. We're talking about corkscrews, married with what my intent is. So mentally, I'm starting to get prepped for this, and now I understand my very first move is I want to be forward, and I want to pull slack, okay? All right, talk to you next time.